Hey Zook family, welcome back. It's Sunday afternoon, which means it's actually your favorite segment of the week. The most watched videos of our week out of all 21 is Creative Conversations with Ron Nicole over in Vegas. This week, we are super lucky to have a special guest of Ron's. So, two partners coming out from Las Vegas. I'm outnumbered this week. So, Ron, I'm going to hand over to you.
How's it going, guys? Joe, always great. One of my favorite times of the week is getting to rap with you. You know, a lot of people don't realize that we set this up, but I think me and Joe normally ends up being about a 3 hour block because me and him talk probably an hour before and an hour after, just catching up. So exciting week. We have Jose Sosa on the phone or on the video with us this week. So goes by Sosa. Actually, the weird thing was only a few moments ago that I actually put together that it was his last name. I didn't know that. I actually thought it was just kind of a nickname, but actually have known each other for quite a few years now. Sosa is like the kind of barber gentleman's groomer in Las Vegas. He probably won't say it, so I'll have to, but like obviously a lot of celebrity clientele, a lot of athletes, pretty much is the barber in Las Vegas. And like I said, gentlemen's grooming spot. It's always a social scene there as well. So it's great to have you on this week with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
It's fantastic to meet you. I mean, this is something, especially in US culture, that we're all aware of. I mean, the barbershop is not just a place to go and look fly, but it's also a place. It's like a community hub where people go and fling chat and discuss what's happening. I'm sure you've got some amazing stories from the years in Las Vegas. I'm sure people have spilt the beans with you many, many times.
There's quite a few stories, and there's a quite a few interesting scenarios that have happened, and it's kind of like a power hour for guys to get away and forget about what's going on in their job, with their wives, with their husbands, with whatever it is. We are an escape, and it's always fun. It's always light. We're always looking at what's happening, what's moving in the scene, and always, when we get people like Ron's a tastemaker in Vegas. So, I pick Ron's brain a little bit, for example, and then I sound like I know what I'm talking about these restaurants and clothing and accessories. So, we cheat a little bit, but we're super grateful. We don't call clients guests, clients, we call them guests. So that's kind of like the scene and the vibe that we try to have there all the time.
It sounds like you and me use Ron for the same thing.
Ron's a tastemaker. Ron's a tastemaker.
Yeah, I started. I've probably been going to you probably 3-4 years now. I mean, time
Probably.
definitely flies, and I was lucky enough to get my first appointment with him. And walking in, it essentially he had kind of filled a hole that was in Vegas. Because I had kind of looked for this type of experience, and the truth is I had it in LA. I was in LA and was living there for a little bit of time. We did a project, and you would go to these kind of gentlemen's barbershops, and then you. I came back to Vegas, and it was definitely missing. Like a lot of people were even just. I mean, so you probably saw this too. A lot of people, because you handle a lot of the key executives in this town. Like on top of the celebrities and athletes, a lot of the high executives at most of these properties now come to you. But there was a period of time where you just kind of, if you were on a certain property, you just go get your haircut there. You know what I mean? And that was kind of like you just kind of worked it in. But I remember the first time I went to Sosa, it's like you walk in and the service was there, and like he's just getting you all cleaned up. Like you go there and he's cutting your hair, but you're also getting like you can get the shave if you want. You're getting that you're doing the black mask on everyone. You're really just taking care of people, and they're offering you a drink, and you got guys hanging out there. And the one time I've been there when you had a fight on. So it's like it's a really like a gentleman's experience that's going on there, and really kind of like it became my pamper hour. It was like going to him was the time you kind of you set the phone down and you got a chance to relax. And I know a lot of other guys feel the same way.
I
Yes,
really want to
exactly.
ask you. I really want to ask you something. How has it transitioned for you from when it would be old school, you just go and get your hair cut, to the whole experience for guys that Ron's talking about? There must be a transition point in the last 10, 15 years where it not only became acceptable, but it came in high demand.
Well, what happened is that a few of us in the barber industry noticed that they were coming, the guests were coming to us for a haircut, but then right after they were going to get their eyebrows done, right, or cleaned up, and then after that they had a facial. And we're like, well, if we're servicing the hair, why not do it all in one and save people time? I came from New York about 6 years ago, and when I came from New York, I was confused at the scene because a man would go and get their hair cut, then from a stylist, the top part with scissors, then they would go to a barber to get a fade, and then they would go to the art of shaving to do their beard work. And to me, it didn't make sense that you had to go to three different places and it was a full day. So when I came here, it kind of like just opened up. I was like, well, we know how to do all this. Let's just put it all together in a package. And I'm pretty sure that people are going to choose time, value and time, and then we'll make it a fun experience. And that's just how it started transitioning. Is you just start talking to your, the person in your chair, and you start building the relationships, and they'll start asking, like Ron is like, hey, do you do that black mask thing that I see? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, okay, cool. And then, somebody else comes ask, and it's like, hey, do you wax nose hairs? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I didn't know. So, you still get that feeling, but for every once in a while, just the guests themselves will ask you for the service, and it just becomes second nature.
I want to tell you an exact quote that was said to me yesterday, right? So we all got our haircut on resort yesterday because they all just reopened, right? And if your hair is thinning like mine, you start slicking it back to cover the bald patch. So we all have our styles, right? And
yeah.
One of the executives here, I was in a lift with him, a really good guy. He's the EVP for casino. And he said to me, I'm really pissed off, Joe. I want to get my hair cut by someone new. And he turned to me and said, I'm going to go back to my regular once I get off the resort, because we've been stuck up here because we couldn't travel. And he said, because it's not just a trust thing, but it's a personal thing. My hairdresser just knows how I like it. And it's a case that I think it's one of those professions that's alongside a doctor, that's alongside a dentist, where you need to trust the person who's doing it, which is really interesting because I probably trust my barber more than I trust my bank manager.
Funny story is dentist, the profession, came out of barbering.
Really?
Back in the day, when you wanted to pull your teeth, you would go to a barber. When you were going to a doctor for like bloodletting and, that's how they cured diseases, it was a barber that did it. Barbering is the second oldest profession. A lot of careers came out of, or a lot of professions came out of barbering.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I never knew that. But it's definitely, you're trusting your entire image to someone there and then. So it's a hugely important thing.
And that's where you take the I want to say the regular barber with the one that makes it a career, is that when for example, I cut hair, I don't cut just to make the perfect fade. I look at your facial features. I look at your attributes. For example, if you have chubby cheeks, I'm going to draw a straight line on your beard, because when you look at it straight on, it's going to make your face look longer, which makes your cheeks look, thinner, right? So when you have, like, for example, if you have like I have a longer face, so that way I have to keep bulk on the side of my head so it doesn't look too long. So when you get to a certain level, you start cutting for the facial feature of the person, and then you just apply a look that's going to accent and really complement the person. It's not a one size fits all haircut at one point.
I was going to say, like, I won't, obviously, for client privacy, but you have quite a few clients who have actually built barber chairs and areas inside their executive offices where you'll actually go there at this point and kind of do a little bit of traveling. But because of the experience and their schedules, they've kind of worked with you where you'll actually go into their executive space now where they have an actual chair, and you'll actually do the service there.
Yes. And clients have it in their houses as well, in their condos. Sometimes, like, I'll go to LA for the day, just to service a client. But it's just, if you think about it, right, if as an executive or as a business person, you have meetings all day, or you have a certain schedule, and say your office is just 20 minutes away from the barbershop, it's going to take you 25, 30 minutes to get there when you get in your car, driving and all that stuff. Then you got an hour for the haircut and then another 30 minutes to get back. You're going to lose an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, right? if I'm there at your office, the convenience is that you have that certain time period. So you go literally from a meeting into the chair and you don't lose any time.
That's fascinating. That's pretty cool. I mean, Ron's just, when in 45 years, when I finally get to that EVP position, that's the first thing I'm going to do.
You know, and even Ron himself has experienced it. Like I learned a lot of like tricks from Ron or phrases where he'll say, "Hey, you're on property," and to me that was code word for I need a haircut. You know, and I would go and I'm like, okay, cool. You know, he's like, "Hey, we got 15 minutes. Nobody's gonna come in this room in 15 minutes. So can you get it done?" And I'm like, "Yep. Let's not talk. Let's get it done." So, it's. I think a lot of people forget that it's a service industry, and I'm here to service. And the environment is just what the environment is. I'll give you this perfect example. I was a big wrestling fan back in the day. I'm talking about like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. And I hated Sean McMahon. Like I hated his character. I didn't know that it was make believe. And then about 2-3 years ago, I had the opportunity to service the WWE when they came into town. And I remember that their showtime was at 5. Not like they got to be around. It's like they air live at 5. And Shane McMahon sat in my chair at 4:51. And I was like, "What do you want me to do? Look at you. We have 9 minutes." He goes, "I need the beard cleaned up. I need the hair faded. And I need you to take a little bit off the top. You have 7 minutes because it takes about 2 minutes to get to the front." And I remember I was like, just got it done, and we built a good relationship in that short amount of time. That it meant the world to me because I was a fan and I didn't like him, but then talking to him that little bit, I was like, man, this guy's pretty cool. He's into sneakers. He's into a lot of the things that I like. And I think the ultimate hats off was when he was doing his signature move off the ropes, like where he drops the elbow. I'm sitting like 2-3 rows back and he looks dead at me and points at me right before he drops the elbow. And I mean, he could have been pointing to anybody else, but he pointed right at me. And I was like, man, that was my haircut that did it. So it's an experience outside of the barber shop that, wouldn't have happened if I wasn't flexible and reminded that I'm in the service industry and that's what's supposed to be done. We're supposed to go above and beyond.
Now, I remember, and again, I won't give it away for the privacy, but I remember you got a call the one day and you had to hop on a plane and basically had to go cut hair in the locker room for one of the MLB teams.
Yes. I was, it was my daughter's birthday and all she wanted was to go to Disneyland. So mind you, I'm in the middle of building this thing here in Vegas. So any day that I'm off is a day that the competition gets to work, right? And coming from New York, there's no give on that, right? So I said, all right, fine. I'm gonna block off. I think I blocked off 4 days, and I'm talking about like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? The busier days. And we get to the park, we drive, and we get settled in the hotel. We're walking into the park of Disneyland, right? Everything's set up for her, the breakfast, everything. As I'm walking in, this guy's agent calls me and says, "Hey, you got the job. I just booked you a flight. You leave 45 minutes from now." And I'm like, "How do you know where I'm at?" And they're like, "What do you mean? You're in Vegas." So like, yeah, we booked you a flight to leave from Vegas to come to, he was in Seattle at the moment. And I was like, I'm not in Vegas. Like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, "Well, where are you?" And I was like, "I'm in Disneyland with my daughter for her birthday." And it was like, she never even heard the daughter part for her birthday. And she said, "All right, no worries. I just switched the flight. You leave out of John Wayne in 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I don't have any tools. I'm in Disneyland with my family on vacation." And she goes, "You're telling me that you cannot go buy tools right now?" And I was like, "I can probably buy tools, but not the ones that I need to cut this caliber of a client." And she goes, "Well, you make it happen." And she sent me $1,000 to buy tools. And I was like, oh, this is real. So I'm looking at my wife and my wife looks at me and she goes, just go, and I ended up buying the tools, making the flight. And mind you, the tools were not broken in or anything. I land, I go straight to the stadium. They're finishing up a game, so I watched like the last two innings, and he actually hit a home run in the ninth. And I was like, all right, I'm about to cut this guy that just hit a home run with tools that I didn't use. Like I'm watching the game and I'm like going up and down on the lever, right? Haven't used these tools since I started cutting hair. And I go in, you can't go into the locker room in the Seattle team. They have a separate room up front. So he goes, the photo shoot's tomorrow, but I wanted to get freshed up today because we're gonna go out and you're gonna come with us. And I was like, all right. So I'm over here sweating, struggling. It's tools that I'm not used to. And it's like one of my favorite baseball players ever. So I get his haircut. Then, the trainer comes. He's like, cut my hair too. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is not going to get any easier. I had the worst scissors. Anyways, long story short, I cut his hair. They put me up in a hotel, the nicest hotel I've ever seen. I was like, dude, you could have paid me the money for the hotel, but you ended up giving it here. So the next day I go and I'm like around, right? And he's Dominican, I'm Dominican, so we're speaking Spanish and we're getting along. Like his whole entourage, like, I'm able to talk stories with them because I can relate, right? And he's like a idol for us, a hero. So then they're like, hey, we scratched the first idea for the photo shoot. You guys got about an hour. So we start playing, we call it bitilla, where it's like you take like, it looks like a broomstick and then you see the cap to a 5-gallon water jug, that blue or white cap. That's how we practice in the Dominican Republic because it moves so much and it's really hard to hit. So I start playing this childhood game with the guy that I look up to the most in baseball, right? And all of a sudden, the ad changes and they're like, the commercial changes. They're like, okay, we're gonna talk to him while you're cutting his hair, like a day in the life. So I was like, okay. So I'm trying to stay out of frame the whole time. And like, no, you're gonna be in the frame. And this is a New Balance commercial, and I'm wearing Adidas gear in the commercial that launched because I wasn't prepared. So like, I'm over here, a national, like it was to release his sneaker, and I'm wearing Adidas in the commercial. Like if you look it up, you'll see me in the very beginning, and they show my whole body, and I'm wearing Adidas. I'm wearing like the Yeezy, the Kanye shirts that came out, the first ones, the pants and Yeezys, and on our Boost at the time, and I'm cutting this guy's hair for a New Balance commercial. How crazy is that?
Those are the kind of memories you can't make up. Those are the kind of memories you take with you to your grave as well.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I was just like, did that just happen? That just happened. And I was there for 2 days. I left the next morning and I cut 2 haircuts, and it was just like the most I've ever made cutting hair. And it was for 2 haircuts. It paid for the whole Disneyland trip, but I came back, I'm exhausted, I'm jet lagged. And then, I had to do a whole day of walking around in Disneyland, and it's just like catching up on the 2 days that I missed.
Now the other thing is obviously you, again, we'll keep the privacy of clients on your side, but you did a lot of the performers that have come through Vegas, you've cut their hair. I know you've done a lot of the photo and video shoots that have gone on as well. And those have always kind of been their own challenge. You're getting some of the guys that are literally coming from the night before, and you've got to prep them for a photo shoot. So that's some of the other fun stories there.
Well, the first one, the first, I want to say, big break that happened was because of you, Ron. I remember, I think it was the billboards, and you were like, hey, can you come cut these guys' hair? And I was like, okay. And I said, okay, without knowing anything. On my ride to the T-Mobile Arena, I'm Googling the guys so I can see what type of haircut they get. And then I was like, wow, this is like, I have 20 minutes to cut their hair. And it's like a stylist a team of stylists that does it. So I get in the room and I'm the only barber in the room. So all the stylists are looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I cut the guy's hair, and he ended up being like the coolest, most humblest dude ever. Like, he's from New York, one of them from New York. And it was just like, such a cool experience. And I'm there watching the show, and I'm like, did this just happen? Did I just cut this person's hair? You know?
I think they actually won an award that night, and they actually performed that night as well. So
Yeah,
it was really cool.
that was the joke. I was like texting him. I was like, "Hey, look at what my haircut did." He goes, "I think the songs were out before the haircut." I was like, "It doesn't matter." My haircut won the award. And then after that, it just started trickling down. It's just like the confidence from one artist, you know, and they talk, and you know, when you have somebody like Ron just plugging you in, it was just like one after another. I remember I used to like work more on the strip than I did at the shop.
He was, I mean, you've always been great too. And, you know, we haven't got to that point yet at the new property, but I know it's going to get there. There would be times where Sosa would come by, especially when we were about to open the venue last year, and there would be a domino effect. So he'd walk in, and I actually remember I was getting sent somewhere the next morning, and I wanted to get a haircut. I was getting sent out to Miami for business, and he comes by to cut my hair, and again the domino effect. One of the executives walks in and sees that he's cutting hair and goes, "Oh, can I get next?" And I think it led to probably 6 or 7 people actually getting haircuts. And this was already pretty late. It was probably 10 p.m. when I called them, and it literally just rode pretty much through the night because it was just one after the other just waiting. And we kind of almost had a little bit of makeshift barbershop kind of just transformed in space.
Yep. And it was like, then that led to a dinner, and I was like, oh, okay, I get to at least eat. And then it was just like on from there. There was many times where I would go and cut Ron's hair, and on my way out, because I have to go to another appointment, you know, somebody stops me like, hey, so-and-so needs a haircut. You need to go back up. And I'm like, why? I just saw so-and-so. Why didn't they just say something, you know? And it was one of those things that is like that, you know, it's a tight-knit family, you know. Once you cut one, it's just like everybody the domino keeps falling.
Hey, but I think, guys, look, judging by Ron's new background, he's got some space for some brushes there. We can get some sprays in the mix. You know, we can set you up. There's no problem.
I'm not loving my background tonight. I've in the past, we kind of got the palm trees. You're hearing airplanes and birds and stuff. It's got some feel to it. I think I'm losing kind of street cred today with the background. I think it's really hurting.
I feel Ron's Barber Shop has a really good vibe to it. You know, RBS, we can do it like that. It's cool.
I think that would be a great idea, right? Like Ron's Barber Shop. I would love to see what comes out of there. What get created from that space.
Yeah.
Joe, next time you're in Vegas, I'm gonna take you over to Sosa.
It's got to be done. I'm already excited. I mean, I have the best tour guide in Ron to Vegas. He's been doing these video tours for Sosa, where he's been showing Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong what Vegas is like. But now we have a landmark. Ron, you got to make a visual map, and we'll put little landmarks of the guests we meet. So Sosa's the number one. He's the first landmark on that map. We've got to go and hit it up.
That's you know, even now Ron was like, hey, are you free? And I'm like, yep. He's like, how free? So I started getting my bag. It's my bag with all my tools. He's like, no, it's a video call. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go.
That is the ultimate service, and that's the ultimate advert for how good you are. That you were game ready, good to go.
Always be ready.
Hey, well, thanks so much. I've really enjoyed this. This has been an amazing conversation. I really can't wait to meet you in person, and you can clean me up a lot, man. My style I'm not as slick as Ron Nicoli. I need some help.
Nobody is.
True story.
So thank you, man. Thank you for being part of it this week with us, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, Ron, that was probably one of my favorite moments of the creative conversation so far. What a cool guy.
Yeah, Sosa's a good dude, man. Really good dude. Honestly, he's got such a great heart, and again, like it's, you know, he's like the guy out here right now with as far as the gentleman's grooming. So really good dude to know. So definitely going to take you there when you come to town.
It's fascinating how that business model has become so important and almost a necessity to a lot of people. You guys were touching on the base that not just celebrities, but executives, and I guess anyone with an image it's important to them to look good. So he obviously manages that so well.
Yeah, he's done, like I said, he's done an amazing job. And it's funny too, because he didn't touch on it, but like he's got like a lot of like tech built into his business now. Like he's got like these booking platforms and stuff, and they send you reminders, and he's always great too, because the thing is, he'll work with even some of the executive assistants, and he'll be on the phone with them before the guy's there, and he's asking, how long do I have? Because he wants to be conscious of getting the president of a hotel back to his hotel for his next meeting. So Sosa is a real class act, man. He's a really amazing guy.
That's a game at its most. So Ron, apart from Sosa, you also checked to Banksia this week. Banksia was an awesome interview and a very, very cool set. How did you find that one?
So actually, a good friend of mine I've worked with, Brent Freed, actually went to school with him, and he was someone he'd been telling me about him for a while, and just really about kind of the core and roots to Banksia and how it came together. And I just thought it was really interesting, and I thought it was a great story to be told. So as he put us together, it was a great connection to get everything lined up. And it was fun too, because he really curated a good set musically and visually, like finding that backdrop to do it on the dock out in the bay, and thought he did a really amazing job. So I was really excited to see that set. And
who have you got coming up?
So I actually got a really great one coming up this Tuesday. Johnny, and Johnny's got an interesting story, because Johnny is actually a fashion designer, and his collection just got picked up by Fred Siegel, which was a really, really amazing thing. And basically, I met him through a mutual friend, actually a guy who might be coming on our program within the next couple of weeks, put us together. And this guy's a DJ, a fashion designer. He's curating things at a boutique hotel in Vancouver. So really, it's like 24-hour creativity with him, and you'll hear a lot of that in the kind of the interview segment. I even say to him, I like to think I'm a creative guy, but this is a guy who 24/7 is playing in a creative space. And I think I even asked him, I say, what do you do when it's time to calm it down and cool it down? But really, really amazing, and really was super excited to talk to him because of the fashion side and the fact that he's in Fred Siegel. Like, to me, that's amazing. So I was really, really happy for him.
Hey man, I can't wait. And thanks again, Ron. You brought some definite sparkle to this week, especially for me. It's been like Resource World Getting is now back open. It's a super exciting week for us. It's been like a paramount time because you played such a big part in there. We've gone fully digital with Zook Digital. Then we've set up our Fuhu takeaway dishes. We've set up our home delivery dishes, our hotel delivery dishes. We haven't stopped during this lockdown. It's definitely not been downtime for us, but now we're back open. But the good news is we're not going to stop the digital side. We're not going to stop the creative conversations by no means. And we got a ton of exciting guests coming out, from showbiz journalists to booking agents to management to a ton of other fields. And I think you brought a real lifestyle angle today, and thanks so much for that.
It's been great. And Joe, again, I love that we've gotten to kind of go through this period together and evolve together. And honestly, like I said, I think I said at the beginning, it's one of my favorite parts of the week. So always great talking and connecting with you.
Stay safe, Ron, and we'll see you on Tuesday for your follow-up with your international artists.
Sounds great. Good luck, and happy that you guys are reopening. So take care. Be safe.
Take care, my friend.